Come with me on a class trip to Las Vegas. Hi, I'm Sarah, and in October 2024, I was one of 15 Edwards students who went to Vegas for the course COMM 498 International Trade Show. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The class started with a Trade Show 101 workshop put on by STEP, which was super helpful as I had never attended a trade show before. Seth and I were paired to work at the trade show with the company Lovingly Made, which produces things like pea and faba starch and proteins. I didn't know a thing about pea protein, but luckily our first assignment was research, and it wasn't long before I was basically an expert. Our research included going through the list of companies attending the trade show, and there were thousands. It took a while, but when the trip came, we sent our research off and we were feeling ready. I started our travel day by arriving at the airport so early I beat both the gate agents and security. Eventually, I got through, everyone else arrived, and we were eager to get on the plane so that we could start sleeping. After a quick layover in Calgary and 2 flights that felt way too short, we touched down in Sin City. We actually arrived in the afternoon, so we checked into the Excalibur Hotel and then headed over to the trade show venue at Mandalay Bay to pick up our badges. The Mandalay is only a 20-minute walk from the Excalibur, and it was 25 degrees outside, so couldn't complain. I'm gonna lose some of my street cred now because I was in bed by 7, and for the rest of the evening, I just watched the provincial election result and a bad Adam Sandler movie. But that means I was well rested for day 2. This time we took the tram from Excalibur to Mandalay, where we had breakfast together with the people from STEP and went over some plans for the rest of the trip. Then we walked over to the show. This was the day before the trade show started, and so the thousands of exhibitors were all setting up at the same time. It was like one massive construction zone. We could already see how crazy some of the booths were, like this treehouse or this 2-story setup. Then we all got to work and started setting up the STEP pavilion. It didn't take long, and it was fun, because it was like assembling IKEA furniture. This is the final result before the companies came. Later that afternoon, Seth and I met up with Daryl from Lovingly Made to help set up our booth. These are the before shots of the booth, prior to setup, and here is what it looks like afterwards. Setup was pretty quick, so we also walked around the show floor with Daryl, and he pointed out any companies of interest to Lovingly Made. It was super interesting to get his insights and be able to make a note of the booths we could visit once the trade show started. That evening, I met up with some of the others and we got dinner at Italy. I was also able to walk through New York, which was one of the random things I wanted to do. Day 3 of our trip was the first day of the actual trade show, and man, was it busy. I started the day at our booth with Seth, Daryl, and the CEO Heidi, but spent most of the day walking the floor. Apart from collecting swag and obviously trying as many free samples as possible, I was a man on a mission. I went up and down the aisles and stopped at certain booths to chat, which was super fun because I actually love talking to strangers. Notably, I visited a ton of our competitors' booths to collect info that I could report back to our CEO. Now, if they knew I was in cahoots with their competitor, they obviously wouldn't tell me anything. But if they thought I was just a student on a field trip, I could usually get a bit more out of them. The first day went by super quickly, and at 5 p.m. it was time to head out. Once again, I made the most of my Vegas experience by grabbing food and immediately retiring to my hotel room. It's a long day, and personally, I need my 8 hours. Thursday was the second day of the trade show. It was much like the first, except it was Halloween. I continued with my reconnaissance efforts because after walking around the entire first day, I had only covered about a third of the floor. The maps of the floor plan really do not prepare us for how large the space actually is. There are thousands of booths. It takes so long just to walk from one side of the space to the other, but I made sure I did because that is where the puppies were. Overall, things really slowed down by mid-afternoon. Lots of exhibitors were already heading out, even the puppies were leaving, so eventually we started packing up as well. Before we knew it, the trade show had come to an end. It was still Halloween, so after a bit of much-needed rest at the hotel, we headed over to Fremont Street in downtown Vegas. It was super busy and chaotic, but a very fun way to end the trip, because the next morning, we were headed home.